So you got to keep those feelings inside of you, okay? Well, what I did to release those feelings was I wrote.
David Allan Coe isn't just another country singer. He's a legend of the outlaw movement. A man whose life reads like a wild novel, filled with triumphs, struggles, and controversy. From reform schools and prison cells to the bright lights of Nashville, Coe never followed the rules. He rewrote them. His voice was raw, his lyrics unfiltered, his attitude unapologetic. Some saw him as a rebel, others as a provocateur. But one thing was certain. David Allan Coe lived and breathed the outlaw spirit. Born in Akron, Ohio in 1939, Coe's childhood was anything but ordinary. By the time he was just 9 years old, he was locked in reform school. From there, he spiraled into a cycle of juvenile detention centers and eventually high-security prisons. To the system, he was a delinquent. To Coe, he was simply a man refusing to be tamed. But even in the darkest corners of prison, music became his escape. Inspired by Johnny Ace's soulful voice, he sang, he wrote, he dreamed. Then fate stepped in. Blues legend Screamin' Jay Hawkins, known for his wild stage shows and the eerie classic, I Put a Spell on You, heard the young inmate sing. He told Coe he had something rare, something worth chasing. He pushed him to write his story into songs. Coe listened. He bled his pain and defiance into lyrics. His music wasn't polished, it was survival. When he walked out of prison in 1967, he had nothing. No home, no money, no plan. But he did have a dream, a guitar, and a voice like no one else's. He drove straight to Nashville and lived out of an old hearse, parked outside the Raymond Auditorium. By day, he bussed on the streets, his songs echoing with grit and truth. Slowly, people began to notice. One of those people was producer Shelby Singleton. In 1970, he signed Coe to Plantation Records. Together, they released Penitentiary Blues, an album that was dark, intense, and brutally honest. Songs about prison riots, loneliness, and survival. It wasn't mainstream country, it wasn't safe, but it got people talking. And Coe wasn't done. He didn't just want to sing his own story. He wanted to write songs that others could bring to life. In 1973, Tanya Tucker recorded his haunting ballad, Would You Lay With Me, in a Field of Stone. It shot to #1. Tucker became a star, and Coe proved he was more than an ex-con with a guitar. He was one of Nashville's most powerful songwriters. But David Allan Coe wasn't content to stay in the background. He wanted to be the voice, not just the pen. And in 1975, that dream became reality. Signing with Columbia Records, he released Once Upon a Rhyme. That album changed everything. It wasn't just prison songs or street ballads. It was humor, heartbreak, rebellion, country music on his terms. And at its center was a song that would define him forever. You Never Even Called Me by My Name. David Allan Coe always knew how to stir things up. Take his breakout hit, You Never Even Called Me by My Name. At first, it was just another country tune written by Steve Goodman and John Prine. But Coe had a problem with it. He said it wasn't a perfect country song. Why? Because it didn't mention the essentials: trucks, trains, mama, prison, and drinking. So Goodman added a final verse that included every one of those cliches, and when Coe recorded it, the song became something else entirely. A tongue-in-cheek anthem that poked fun at the very heart of country music. Fans loved it. The single shot into the top 10, and suddenly David Allan Coe wasn't just a songwriter. He was a star. His deep, gritty voice and rebellious energy struck a nerve with people tired of the polished Nashville sound. And just like that, Coe had arrived. That same year, cameras caught him in the legendary documentary Heart-Worn Highways alongside Waylon Jennings, Townes Van Zandt, Guy Clark, and a young Steve Earle. These weren't your radio-friendly stars in rhinestone suits. They were outlaws, misfits rejecting Nashville's cookie-cutter mold in favor of something raw and real. For Coe, it was more than just a movement. It was validation. After years of being an outsider, he had finally found his tribe. But of course, Coe had no intention of blending in. Inspired by Mel Tillis's flashy rhinestone suits, he went even further, creating the persona of the mysterious rhinestone cowboy. Dressed in over-the-top outfits and a Lone Ranger-style mask, Coe looked like no other country singer. And that was the point. He wanted to make sure nobody could ignore him. His larger-than-life image, combined with brutally honest music, made him unforgettable. Still, Coe's path was never smooth. While Waylon and Willie were finding mainstream success, Nashville never fully embraced him. He was unpredictable, controversial, and far too unfiltered for executives to control. In 1976, he doubled down with Long-Haired Redneck, an album that became his personal manifesto. The title track was an anthem for outsiders, a middle finger to critics and anyone trying to box him in. And if that ruffled feathers, Coe seemed to enjoy it. Soon he dove headfirst into the underground with albums like Nothing Sacred and Underground Album. These weren't just boundary pushing, they were shocking, filled with crude, explicit lyrics that no radio station would touch. Critics blasted him as vulgar, racist, and offensive. The records were banned from stores, sold only through biker magazines and back-channel distributors. Nashville wanted nothing to do with them, but Coe stood firm. To him, it wasn't hate, it was honesty. He argued that country music had always been about telling the truth, and he was simply telling stories no one else dared to tell. Like Johnny Cash singing about prison or old bluesmen singing about hard living, Coe believed his music was just another version of reality, raw, ugly, and real. His concerts became wild gatherings for bikers, rebels, and outcasts who didn't care about polished hits. They wanted authenticity, and Coe gave it to them, but it came at a price. While other outlaws eventually earned Nashville's respect, Coe stayed on the fringe, his refusal to compromise ensuring he would always remain country's ultimate outsider. And yet, even with all the controversy, David Allan Coe still had a gift for writing songs that cut straight to the heart. In 1977, he penned Take This Job and Shove It, the ultimate working man's anthem. The irony, it wasn't Coe who made it famous. Johnny Paycheck's version soared to #1, but Coe was the man behind the words that echoed through bars, factories, and job sites across America. More hits followed. In 1983 came The Ride, a haunting ballad about a hitchhiker picked up by the ghost of Hank Williams. Then in 1984, he released She Used to Love Me a Lot, a heartbreaking song dripping with regret and nostalgia. Proof that beneath the outlaw image, Coe could deliver some of the most soul-stirring ballads in country music. But just as his music reached new heights, his personal life began to unravel. Money poured in, but just as quickly, it disappeared. Between a chaotic lifestyle, mounting debts, and legal troubles, Coe spiraled into financial crisis. And then came the blow that changed everything. In 1984, David Allan Coe lost control of his own music. In a bankruptcy proceeding, he was forced to sell the rights to every song he had written before that year, including Take This Job and Shove It. The price? Just $225,000. A lifetime of work? Gone in an instant. He later admitted he didn't even realize what was happening until it was too late. Those royalties, the lifeline for most songwriters, were gone forever. While others could rely on their back catalog to survive, Coe was left with nothing. And that devastating loss was just the beginning of the struggles that would define the next chapter of his life. After losing the rights to his biggest songs, most artists would have faded quietly into the background. But David Allan Coe, that was never an option. He did what he had always done. He kept moving. Night after night, city after city, he lived on the road. Touring became his lifeline. Money problems might have stolen his catalog, but no one could take away his voice. And as long as there was a crowd, David Allan Coe wasn't going anywhere. While many of his outlaw peers slowed down or settled into legend status, Coe kept pushing. He wasn't interested in being remembered as a relic. He wanted to prove he still had fire left. In the late 90s, he shocked everyone by teaming up with Pantera's Dimebag Darrell. Together, they created Rebel Meets Rebel, a fusion of country grit and heavy metal thunder that no one saw coming. It wasn't a gimmick, it was a declaration. Coe refused to be put in a box, and even after Dimebag's tragic death, the 2006 release of that album proved that rebellion had no expiration date, and it didn't stop there. Kid Rock reached out, and together they recorded Single Father, a raw and emotional song about raising a child alone. It was a side of Coe the world rarely saw. Not the provocateur, but the storyteller who could tap into deep human struggles. Fans connected instantly, reminded once again that beneath the mask and controversy, Coe had always been a writer first. That same year, he appeared in Johnny Cash's haunting music video for God's Gonna Cut You Down. Standing in black alongside legends like Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson, Coe looked like a man who had lived through every lyric he had ever sung. It was a brief appearance, but an unforgettable one. A reminder that his life had been one long battle between sin and redemption. And even as age and health caught up with him, retirement never crossed his mind. Into the 2000s and beyond, he was still out there, playing biker rallies, honky-tonks, and small-town venues. The mainstream industry may have changed, but his fans hadn't. They were still showing up, still singing along, still drawn to the man who never played by the rules. For David Allan Coe, the outlaw spirit never died. He didn't want to be a mainstream star, didn't chase radio hits, and never once apologized for who he was. That defiance, that refusal to conform, is exactly what made him unforgettable. He didn't just sing about rebellion, he lived it. While Nashville tried to polish country music into something safe and commercial, Coe made sure it kept its dirt, its grit, and its middle finger in the air. Without him, the outlaw country movement would never have burned as bright, and his influence stretched even further. Artists like Kid Rock and Hank Williams III owe a piece of their sound and their attitude to David Allan Coe. He proved that country could be loud, messy, aggressive, and completely unfiltered. He opened doors for musicians who didn't fit in and who didn't want to. Even today, his songs continue to resonate. The working-class anthems, the gut-wrenching ballads, the rough-edged outlaw tracks, they still strike a chord with anyone who feels like an outsider. That's his legacy. Not the awards, not the charts, but the connection with people who just wanted something real. David Allan Coe may never have been Nashville's favorite son. He may never have been the most celebrated name in country music, but he didn't need to be. He built his own legend on his own terms and left behind a body of work that refuses to be forgotten. Because David Allan Coe wasn't just a singer, he was a storyteller, a rebel, a force of nature who demanded to be heard. Love him or hate him, one thing is certain: country music will never see another one like him. But what do you think? Was David Allan Coe a misunderstood outlaw genius, or did he push things too far? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of country music's most controversial figures, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next story. Until next time, keep the outlaw spirit alive.